Hey friends, it's Mary Giordano, and welcome to Unapologetically Wild. Every single day, you have a choice. You can stay where you are, or you can step into the possibility of something even greater. And I'm here to spark that flame within you and inspire you to show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. Messy, scared, and real. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome back to Unapologetically Wild. Can you believe we're already on episode 10? It feels like we just started this podcast last week. So a quick thank you for always tuning in and supporting me on this journey. I could not do it without you. Hitting double digits definitely feels wild in all the best ways, and I'm so grateful you're here for it. Let's get into today's episode. I want to ask you something. Are you someone who's constantly telling yourself and maybe even everyone else around you that you just need to be more consistent? Maybe you've said things like, I just need to be more consistent with working out, or I wish I could be more consistent with eating healthy. If I could just stay consistent, I'd finally hit my goals. If that sounds like you, you're going to want to stick around because I'm going to tell you something that might be hard to believe at first. Consistency is not your issue. In fact, you're already consistent. And I know what you're thinking. Mary, I am the least consistent person out there. What are you even talking about? Well, hang tight because I'm about to prove you wrong. And I'm going to shift your mindset while I'm at it. Most people think the biggest thing keeping them stuck when it comes to change and growth is a lack of consistency. But like I said, consistency is not your issue. And here's why. If you hit snooze every single morning, you're consistent. If you scroll before bed every single night, you're consistent. If you talk yourself out of doing the things you say you want to do, you're consistent. So see, the problem isn't that you're not consistent. The problem is where your consistency is showing up. And that changes everything. Because if you're already capable of being consistent, then changing your life isn't about trying harder. It's not about waking up one day magically filled with this motivation. It's about getting intentional with where that consistent effort is going. So today, we're flipping the script. Instead of beating yourself up for not being consistent, we're going to take an honest look at where your consistency is already showing up and how to start shifting it towards habits that actually align with the person you want to become. So by the end of this episode, you're going to know how to recognize the habits you're already consistent with, even the ones that are holding you back. You're also going to know why motivation is not the problem and what is, and how to shift your consistency towards habits that align with the life you want. So if you're ready to stop fighting yourself and start making consistency work for you instead of against you, stay tuned. So now that you know you're already consistent, the real question becomes, where is that consistency actually going? Because most of us already know that hitting snooze every morning, scrolling before bed, or skipping workouts aren't habits that are going to move us forward. But what we don't always recognize is that doing those things consistently is still shaping who we are. And just to be clear, you're not failing. You're just reinforcing an identity that doesn't match the future you're hoping to create. Consistency isn't just about showing up. It's about what you're showing up for. You can be consistent with procrastination. You can be consistent with second guessing yourself. You can be consistent with staying in patterns that no longer serve you. And here's what most people don't realize. This thing you're doing, it's something I call misdirected consistency. And the reason it's so hard to break out of is because most of what's keeping you stuck doesn't even feel like a decision or a choice. It feels automatic. It feels like you. Maybe you've heard yourself say, I've always been this way, or I just suck at follow through, or this is just my personality. But the truth is, those aren't fixed traits. They're patterns you've repeated enough times to start believing they define you. Every time you repeat an action, even something small, you're literally casting a vote for an identity. If you hit snooze every single morning, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who struggles to get up early. You might say, I'm not a morning person. If you skip workouts, you're reinforcing the belief that exercise just isn't your thing. If you procrastinate on your goals, you're reinforcing the idea that you're someone who can't follow through. And the more you reinforce it, the more automatic it becomes. That's why breaking these patterns feels so fucking hard. It's not just a habit anymore. It's an identity you've unknowingly built. But here's the good news. It works both ways. Just like you've been reinforcing patterns that don't serve you, you can now start reinforcing patterns that do. And don't worry, it doesn't start with some big dramatic life overhaul. It starts with one small shift at a time. And you hear me talk about this in every single episode. One small step, micro shift. Small shifts create massive results. So before you tell yourself again, I'm just not consistent, I want you to pause and ask, where am I already consistent? Because once you recognize the patterns you're reinforcing, you then get to decide whether they're actually worth keeping. So let's do that right now. So just take a second and come up with one thing you do every single day without even thinking. Just one. It could be how you start your morning, how you respond to stress, how you talk to yourself when something doesn't go as planned. And then ask yourself, is this habit reinforcing the person I want to become, or is it keeping me exactly where I am? No judgment, just awareness. Because you can't change it if you're not even aware that it's happening. So now that you're starting to see where your consistency has been going, let's talk about something that keeps way too many people stuck, and that's motivation. Motivation is bullshit. How many times have you said, I just need to get motivated, or I just wish I had more motivation? Here's the thing. Motivation is temporary, it's unreliable, and it's inconsistent. It's there when you're feeling inspired and gone the second you have a rough day. It's strong on Monday morning, and it's non-existent by Friday night. It shows up when something feels fresh and exciting, and then it disappears the moment things get hard, boring, or inconvenient. So you don't need more motivation. You need a rhythm, a system, something that makes it easier to do the thing you said you wanted to do and harder to talk yourself out of it. Because motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, and if you're relying on it to build a new habit or change your life, you will be waiting around forever. Let's take a look at two people. Person A says, I need to stop checking my phone in the morning. They mean well, they start strong, hoping they'll have enough willpower to resist, but by day 3, the motivation fades and they're back to scrolling first thing. Person B removes their phone from the bedroom, buys an alarm clock, and leaves a book on their nightstand. They don't need motivation because they've made scrolling harder and reading easier. Same goal, different strategy. One relies on feeling motivated. The other relies on a system. And that applies to everything. It's not about motivation. It's not even just about systems. It's about building habits that support your identity or the identity of the person you say you want to become. And I actually have a full episode coming up on this because so many people get stuck thinking they need to feel motivated before they take action. But for today, just let this sink in. If you're waiting on motivation, you're already losing. So now that we've called out motivation for what it is, temporary, unreliable, and inconsistent, let's talk about what actually creates lasting change. It's not about doing more. It's not about trying harder. It's about aligning your habits with the identity of the person you want to become. Think about it. A runner doesn't wake up every day debating whether or not to run. They just do it because it's part of who they are. A musician doesn't wait to feel inspired to practice. They practice because it's just what they do. Someone who values their health doesn't talk themselves into every little good decision. They just live that way because it's who they've become. You don't have to force consistency when it's rooted in identity. You just live in alignment with the kind of life you want to create. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. And if you don't have this book, go get it. I've read it several times. It's absolutely amazing. He says every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. So instead of forcing yourself to be more consistent, start redirecting the consistency you already have and aim it at habits that reflect the person you're becoming. It's the difference between saying, I'm trying to work out more versus I'm an athlete and that's just what athletes do. I need to eat healthier versus I'm someone who takes care of their body and so I choose foods that nourish me. I should start journaling versus I'm a reflective person and writing is just part of how I live. See the difference? One feels like pressure and the other, it's a reminder of who you're becoming. So if you want to be consistent with the habits that align with who you want to be, you have to start thinking and acting as if you are already that person. Here's how you do that. Number one, decide who you want to become. Not just what you want to do, but who you want to be, how you want to feel. This isn't just about saying, I need to read more. It's about claiming, I'm the kind of person who reads every day because growth matters to me. Once you know who that future version of you is, it's time to start backing it up with action. So number two, prove it to yourself with small wins. Like I mentioned earlier, James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. But here's what no one talks about. It's not just one action that changes things. It's the follow-through. Tiny wins, repeated. That's what builds self-trust. That's what creates momentum. Think about it. You don't build confidence from setting goals. You build it from keeping promises to yourself. You don't change your life in one massive leap. You do it one small choice at a time. You don't need motivation to keep going once something becomes part of your rhythm, but you do need those first few reps to lay the foundation. So start small, pick one habit that aligns with your future self and commit to it in a way that feels doable, not dramatic. You don't need to go all in. You just need to show up in a way that proves I'm doing the thing I said I would. That's how momentum starts, not from hype, but from evidence. Once you start stacking small wins, your next job is to make those wins easier to repeat. Because the truth is, we're all consistent. The question is, consistent with what? Your environment either supports your future self or it reinforces who you're trying to outgrow. If you're someone who works out regularly, lay your clothes out the night before. If you want to nourish your body, make sure your kitchen reflects that. If you want to protect your peace, stop waking up to your phone. Make the right choice the easy choice. Make the old pattern harder to access. Because at the end of the day, it's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters consistently enough to create proof. Proof that you're not just thinking about the life you want, but that you're actually building it. So let's do this right now. Ask yourself, who is the future version of me? What do they do every day? How do they take care of themselves? How do they show up for themselves in a way that honors their growth and values? Now, what's one small action you can take today to cast a vote for that version of you? Because that's how you shift your consistency into alignment, not by waiting, not by forcing, but by becoming. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something powerful because awareness is everything. If you want to shift your consistency, the first step is noticing where it already exists. So here's your challenge. For one day, pay attention to everything you do consistently, the good, the bad, and the stuff you don't even think about. Write it all down, every small habit and every automatic action. No judgment, just awareness. Maybe you notice that every morning the first thing you do is grab your phone. Maybe you realize you tell yourself, I'll do that later, way more than you thought. Maybe you see that skipping your workout or snacking when you're bored is just what you do. Now here's where the shift begins. Look at that list and ask yourself, which of these habits are reinforcing the version of me I want to become, and which ones are keeping me stuck? Then pick just one, not 10, not 5, just one. What's one small shift you can make today to redirect your consistency? Maybe instead of grabbing your phone first thing, you take 3 deep breaths. Maybe instead of saying, I'll start tomorrow, you take one micro action today. Maybe instead of skipping your workout, you commit to 5 intentional minutes. And now before you go thinking, okay, cool, so now I have to be perfect, I'm going to stop you right there because perfection has nothing to do with consistency. You don't need to hit 100%. You just need to aim for 80%. That means you're not stressing if you miss a day. You're not letting one off day become quote unquote, I fell off the wagon. You're staying focused on progress, not perfection. If you're showing up 80% of the time, you're already winning. The problem isn't missing a workout or having a day where you eat like crap. The problem is when that one day convinces you to fall back into the story, see, I'm not consistent. So instead of aiming for perfect, aim for 80%. That's where real consistency lives. And when you show up, even just once, reward it. Not with food or shopping or some giant thing, but with something that tells your brain, hey, I did the fucking thing and it matters. It could be checking it off a list, doing a happy dance, adding a star to your habit tracker, high-fiving yourself in the mirror like Mel Robbins talks about in her high five habit, or literally saying out loud, hell yeah, I did the fucking thing. Because when your brain connects consistency with feeling good, it wants to keep showing up. So track your consistency, shift one small habit, and celebrate the proof you're building. And if something clicks or you have some big realization, DM me on Instagram or tag me in your stories. I love hearing your wins, and I'll be sharing some of my favorites this week. And remember, real change doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters over and over again. Thanks for tuning in today. If this episode hit home, subscribe and share it with a friend, because together we can bring more women into this wild, unapologetic space. Remember, waiting until you feel ready is the fastest way to nowhere. So show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. Until next time, stay wild.